She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "This was never your house anyway." That's the moment I stopped being their mother and became a woman they underestimated. I remember the smell of roasted potatoes that night, crispy edges rosemary, the kind Henry used to love. I'd made them from memory, thinking maybe something familiar would help ease the silence at the dinner table. It had only been a week since the funeral, a week since I'd stood in black beside a hole in the ground and watched 32 years of marriage be lowered into it. My son Derek sat across from me, shoulders tense, eyes downcast. His wife Vanessa had her usual tight-lipped expression. She never liked my cooking, or me, if I'm being honest. Still, I tried. I passed the bowl of potatoes with trembling hands. Maybe this was what holding a family together looked like, pretending nothing had changed even when everything had. And then mid-bite, Vanessa looked me straight in the eyes and said it like she was announcing dessert. "Now that Henry's gone, it's time you packed your bags. This was never really your home anyway." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. But Derek said nothing, just nodded quietly, like a man avoiding the sound of his own guilt. He couldn't even meet my eyes, and that hurt more than Vanessa's words. It wasn't just grief I felt anymore, it was erasure. A cold, calculated dismissal from the people I once believed were my family. Vanessa went on, her voice too sweet to be sincere. "We've been looking into senior communities. You'd be more comfortable, less to worry about." But what she really meant was, "We want your house." The same house Henry and I built from the ground up, scraping together every dollar to fix it one room at a time. The place where Derek took his first steps, where we celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, where Henry planted roses every spring just for me. And now it was nothing more than square footage to them. Leverage, not legacy. I sat in silence that night, but something deep inside me stirred, something that hadn't had a voice in years. They thought they were pushing me out, but they had no idea what I was about to awaken. I didn't say a word after dinner, not when Vanessa cleared the plates like she owned the place, not when Derek finally looked up, gave me a faint smile that said, "Sorry, but not really," and followed her out of the dining room without another word. I just sat there for a while longer, staring at the empty chair across from me. It had only been a week, but I still expected Henry to be sitting there, elbows on the table, that tired warmth in his eyes, always making some quiet joke to lighten the mood. Instead, there was silence. Thick, heavy, choking silence. Eventually, I stood up, my knees creaking beneath me, and walked slowly upstairs. The bedroom door groaned softly as I pushed it open. This room, our room, it still smelled like him. His cologne lingered in the folds of the blanket we'd shared. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand where he left them the night before his heart gave out in his sleep. The way he always left them. Careful, predictable, just like him. I sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress still dipped slightly on his side, and that's when the tears finally came. Not the sobbing kind, not even the gasping kind, just quiet, steady, hot tears that rolled down my face without needing permission. It wasn't just grief for Henry. It was grief for something else, something more subtle but just as devastating. My place in the world was vanishing and fast. I'd buried my husband, and now apparently I was expected to bury myself. That night I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling in the dark, thinking, remembering, feeling like I was being erased from my own life. And maybe in the past I would have let it happen. I would have accepted what was handed to me, smiled politely, and stepped aside the way women of my generation were taught to do. But something was different this time. Something inside me refused to shrink. I started going over things in my mind, details I'd overlooked. Conversations, habits, the way Henry always brushed off my questions about finances with a kind smile and a "don't worry, I've got it handled." Back then I thought it was love, protection, maybe it was. But now I was left in the dark, and that darkness was closing in fast. What had we even owned? What had he left behind? And more importantly, what did I actually have? I sat up, turned on the lamp, and grabbed a notepad from the drawer. The questions came like a flood. Was the house paid off? Were there life insurance policies? Did we have investments? What about the construction business Henry ran? Had Derek already touched our bank accounts? I wrote down everything I could remember. Numbers, bank names, faint memories of where we used to go for deposits. I couldn't sleep, but at least now I had a list. At 6:45 the next morning, I stood at the mirror brushing my hair. I put on Henry's favorite cardigan, the soft navy one he always said made my eyes look stormy. I didn't wear it for comfort. I wore it like armor. I grabbed my purse, and Keys took one long look around our bedroom and quietly whispered, "I'm going to fix this." The drive to the bank was quiet. Streets I'd driven down for decades now felt different, like they were watching me, waiting to see if I'd break or rise. The First National branch was just opening its doors when I arrived. I asked to speak with a manager. A woman named Mrs. Langford greeted me, kind eyes, soft voice. She led me to a private room, offered me tea, and gave me the kind of smile people reserve for the freshly widowed. "Mrs. Ellis," she said gently, "I'm so sorry about your husband. Henry was always such a gentleman, always asked about my daughter's piano recitals. Thank you," I said, trying not to let my voice crack. "He was everything. What can I help you with today?" And that's when I took a deep breath. I need to understand my financial situation completely. Henry handled everything, but I need to know what's mine, what's been left behind. I need to see it all. Mrs. Langford nodded and turned to her screen fingers clicking away. I held my breath as she scrolled, then her eyebrows raised slightly. She hesitated. "Oh my." My heart dropped. "Is something wrong?" "No, not wrong exactly. Just, there are more accounts here than I expected." She began printing out papers. First was a joint checking account, modest balance enough to keep me comfortable for a few months if I was frugal. Next, a shared savings account, much more substantial, tens of thousands. But then she paused again. "There are several other accounts here in your name, only Mrs. Ellis, and a trust." "My name?" I asked, confused. "That can't be right." "Henry never said." Mrs. Langford pulled out a folder. My signature was on every form. Dates I vaguely recognized, days we'd gone to update addresses or sign for new cards. He must have had me sign things back then, claiming they were minor. I never questioned it. I trusted him. We were a team. But what I was beginning to realize is Henry hadn't been keeping me out. He'd been preparing me. There were CDs, a money market account, and the trust, the Ellis Construction Trust. And the balances, I could barely process them. Quietly, carefully, my husband had built a financial fortress around me, not to hide from me, but to shield me from them, from people like Vanessa, from situations like this. As Mrs. Langford explained the transfers, deposits, and interest, I began to understand the pattern. Henry had been giving Derek money over the years, but each time he made sure to tuck away an equal or larger amount in my name. He'd known. Somehow, in his own quiet way, Henry had seen this coming. Maybe not the exact dinner conversation, but the potential, the entitlement, the erosion of family ties when money enters the room. By the time I left the bank, my purse was stuffed with printouts and documents, and my chest, it was filled with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Fire. I pulled into the parking lot of a small cafe and sat there letting everything sink in. I had enough money to survive. I had legal control of the trust. I had security they didn't even know existed. Derek and Vanessa thought they were winning. They thought I was weak. But I was beginning to realize I'd been underestimated, and I had no intention of going quietly. I sat at the cafe staring at the pile of paperwork on the table like it might dissolve if I blinked hard enough. The morning traffic passed by in a steady rhythm outside the window, but I barely noticed. The world felt distant. I felt distant. The numbers on the printed statements blurred in my vision: CDs, savings, transfers, dates, balances, legal language, fine print, my name, my signature, over and over again. And yet all I could think was, he planned all of this. Henry. My Henry hadn't just taken care of things. He had prepared for war, quietly, lovingly, like a man who saw the storm coming long before I ever heard the thunder. I reached for my cup of coffee, hands still trembling slightly. The documents from Mrs. Langford were stacked neatly, but the weight of them was anything but tidy. Because those accounts, those balances, they were evidence, not just of money, but of intention, of protection, of love. I could still hear Mrs. Langford's voice soft and steady in the office just an hour earlier. There's also a trust account, Mrs. Ellis. It's connected to a business account under the name Ellis Construction Trust. According to our records, it was established 5 years ago. I remember blinking, confused. Henry sold the company when he retired. She shook her head gently. Not exactly. The business account is still active. It's been receiving consistent deposits, then transferring funds into your trust. That's when the air seemed to go still. I remember the moment in such sharp detail. The soft hum of the fluorescent lights, the muted rustle of her blouse as she printed out the transaction history, and the phrase that rang in my ears like a bell: consistent deposits, always after Derek asked for help. I stared at the dates. Every time Derek had come by the house with some story, Vanessa's medical bills, a new business venture, trouble with a contractor, Henry had quietly handed over money. But then, without fail, he had also made a corresponding transfer into my name, small amounts, sometimes just a few $100s, sometimes more, but always something. It wasn't just generosity, it was strategy. It was love disguised as numbers on a page. And suddenly I began to see things differently. The way Henry had insisted on handling all the finances, the way he made sure I didn't have to worry about it, the way he brushed off Derek's frequent requests for money with a calm voice and a tired smile. He wasn't just protecting me from the burden of money, he was protecting me from them, from what he suspected might come when he was gone. And now I had proof, legal, signed, mine. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been asleep for years, sleepwalking through decisions, signing papers without reading, nodding when Henry said, "Just routine stuff, sweetheart." It hit me painfully how much I'd let slide, how much I hadn't asked, and yet I couldn't feel angry at him. Because in the end, he'd done the one thing that mattered most. He made sure I'd be okay. He made sure I wouldn't have to grovel or beg or shrink just to survive. The waitress refilled my coffee as I spread the papers out again. Trust account, 2 CDs, a money market account, all in my name, all signed by me. I leaned back in the booth and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Henry hadn't left me with nothing. He'd left me with everything I'd need. But more than that, he'd left me with a message. A message written not in words, but in structure, in foresight, in care. He knew our son. He knew Vanessa. And he knew me. He knew that I wouldn't want to fight, that I'd avoid conflict, that I'd sit quietly at that dinner table and swallow whatever bitter pill they handed me. So he made sure I'd never have to. And now, with each document I read, I began to feel that flicker again, that spark I hadn't felt since before grief drowned everything. This was more than a safety net. This was a blueprint. It was Henry's final act of love. Not roses, not love letters, but lines on paper that said, "You matter. You are not disposable. You will not be left behind." As I flipped through another statement, I noticed something else, a pattern. Every time Derek had gotten help from Henry, the trust account saw a deposit of equal or greater value. It was as if Henry were creating balance, making sure that for every hand reaching in, something was also being secured, guarded, set aside. And the deposits weren't random. They were steady, regular, quiet. Like a man placing bricks in a wall one by one until he'd built something strong enough to keep out even the people who called themselves family. Suddenly, I remembered something. 3 years ago, a heated conversation between Henry and Derek in the backyard. I'd overheard fragments, something about a loan and not a gift. And we have responsibilities, Dad. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. just another disagreement between father and son. But now I understood. Henry was lending him money, but with conditions, and protecting me in the same breath, because Henry knew. He knew that love without boundaries becomes erosion. That family, when left unchecked, can twist entitlement into a weapon. And so he did the unthinkable. He planned for the day when I'd be alone and made sure I wouldn't be powerless. I gathered the paperwork back into my bag and sat there for a while watching the world pass by outside. People walked by with coffee cups and cell phones, laughing, chatting, living their lives. And here I was on the other side of the glass in a strange new reality, one where I was suddenly not as helpless as I'd thought. Derek and Vanessa thought they were writing the next chapter of my life. They thought the last page of my story had already been turned. But they were wrong. Henry had left me a pen and a key and a fortress, and I was going to use every single brick he'd laid to build a future on my terms. Tomorrow I would call the business accountant listed on the trust paperwork, because if there was more to this story, more that Henry left me, I was going to find it. Not for revenge, not out of pride, but because no one, not even my own son, was going to erase me from the life I helped build. The next morning I stood outside the brick building that housed Jensen and Associates. It sat nestled between a small insurance office and a florist that hadn't changed its window display since Easter. Humble, unassuming, just like Henry. The business card I clutched was a little worn from how many times I'd turned it over in my hands. Douglas Jensen, CPA, business accountant. Henry had mentioned him a few times in passing, usually with phrases like, "Doug's got it under control," or "Jensen makes sure everything runs smooth." Now I was about to find out just what everything meant. Inside the office smelled faintly of paper and printer ink. A young woman greeted me and led me into a small office where a man in his late 60s stood and extended his hand. "Mrs. Ellis," he said warmly, his voice tinged with something between familiarity and caution. "Please call me Doug, and I'm truly sorry about Henry. He was a good man." I nodded. "Thank you. I'm just trying to understand what he left behind, and how much of it." "I didn't know." He gestured for me to sit. "That's understandable. Henry was a very private person. He liked to shield the people he loved." The weight of those words pressed against my chest. "Yes," I said, softly. "I'm learning that now." Doug pulled up a set of files on his computer and turned the monitor slightly so I could see. "Let's start with the biggest surprise," he said. "Henderson Construction, excuse me." Ellis Construction Trust was never sold. It was restructured 5 years ago into a trust. The company itself still operates under the same name, same clients, same leadership. But legally, it's owned by you. I blinked. "Me?" Doug nodded. "Yes, you're the sole beneficiary of the Ellis Construction Trust. Henry set it up to ensure you had full ownership without it having to pass through probate or be divided among any heirs." I stared at him, barely breathing. I thought, Derek said the business had been sold, that there wasn't anything left. Doug raised an eyebrow. "Well, your son is either misinformed or not entirely honest." He began printing out statements, pages and pages of contracts, invoices, profit and loss reports. After Henry stepped back from day-to-day operations, Doug continued. He handed over management to Tom Bradley. "You may remember him. He started as a laborer and worked his way up. Henry trusted him, and for good reason. Under Tom's leadership, the company's been running smoothly with steady profits and minimal debt." He handed me a highlighted report. I scanned the numbers, hundreds of thousands in annual profit. "And these deposits?" I asked, pointing to the regular transfers. "These go into the trust exactly. Every quarter." I let out a breath that felt like it had been stuck in my lungs since the funeral. I had no idea. Doug smiled gently. "That was the point. Henry didn't want you to worry, but he also didn't want you to be blindsided when he was gone." I looked up from the paperwork. "What about Derek?" Doug's expression grew more cautious. He reached for a separate folder. "Over the past 5 years, Henry issued several loans to Derek, all through the business account, each one documented and signed. He handed me the file. I opened it slowly, page after page, loan agreements, dates, amounts, signatures, $5,000 for a down payment, $12,000 for business investment capital, $20,000 for a short-term emergency, on and on, in total, $87,000. I closed the folder and stared at the ceiling. He never paid any of it back, did he? I asked. Doug's silence told me everything. He made some initial payments, he finally said, but they stopped 2 years ago. Henry chose not to enforce it. But the debt still exists. Legally, you now have full authority over how to handle it. I felt the room shift slightly, like the earth had tilted. Derek, my son, had borrowed almost $90,000 from the very company he claimed was worthless. And all the while he and Vanessa were measuring my drapes and telling me I'd be better off somewhere smaller. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But instead I reached for one of the profit statements. This is still operating, still profitable. Doug nodded. Very much so. In fact, your last quarterly deposit just hit the trust 2 weeks ago. Over $40,000. I blinked. So, you're saying... I'm saying that not only are you the owner of a thriving business, but it's generating enough income to support you comfortably for the rest of your life. I looked at him, eyes wide, and Derek doesn't know Doug smiled. Henry never told him, and unless you do, he still thinks it was all sold off. I sat back in the chair, stunned. The fortress Henry had built was bigger than I imagined. He hadn't just put bricks around me. He'd fortified the entire kingdom, guarded it, hidden it, and left the key in my name. And now I held it. All of it. I don't want to run a construction business, I said softly. You don't have to, Doug replied. Tom is doing a fine job. You just need to stay informed. Decide how you want to handle your son's debt, and whether you want to continue as silent owner or become more involved. I thought about the house, about Vanessa's voice. This was never your home anyway. I thought about Derek's silence, his refusal to meet my eyes, and I thought about Henry, not just the man I loved, but the man who knew me, who knew our son, who looked into the future and said, I'll protect you even if I'm not there. I stood up and shook Doug's hand. Thank you. I think I have a lot to consider. You know where to find me, he said, and Evelyn Henry was proud of you. He said it more than once. I smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it wasn't a sad smile. It was the smile of a woman who realized she wasn't lost. She had just been walking through fog, and now the sky was clearing. As I stepped back into the sunlight outside, I thought to myself, they tried to take everything from me, but Henry made sure they couldn't. And now, the blueprint he left behind was mine to follow. It was a quiet morning when Tom showed up. I had just finished sorting through some of Henry's old files. In the study, the man was meticulous, and his folders were labeled with everything from tax forms to Christmas light warranties. I was trying to make sense of what else he might have left behind when I heard the soft knock on the back door. The knock told me who it was before I even looked. Tom Bradley, still in his work boots and flannel, his face sun-weathered and his hands rough from decades of labor. But his eyes, that was where Henry always said you'd see a man's truth. And in Tom's eyes, I saw something steady, something loyal. Mrs. Ellis, he said, removing his cap respectfully. I hope it's not a bad time. Not at all, Tom. Come in, I said, opening the door fully. And please just call me Evelyn. He gave a short nod and stepped inside, wiping his boots, as he always did. It felt surreal, welcoming someone who had known my husband longer than most people in our lives. Tom had started as a green apprentice and risen to foreman under Henry's guidance. He'd become more than just an employee. He was family in every way that counted. I poured us both coffee and gestured toward the kitchen table, the same table where Vanessa had made her cruel declaration. But today, the air felt different, steadier. I wanted to talk to you about something Tom said, hands wrapped around the mug. Been holding on to it since the funeral. I waited. He exhaled. Your son's been poking around the job site. My stomach clenched. He showed up 2 days ago asking about contracts, equipment, cash flow projections. Said now that Henry's gone, he'd be taking over the business affairs. Wanted access to the office passwords, bank info. Said you were grieving and he'd streamline things. My hand tightened around the handle of my cup. Did you give him anything? Tom looked me straight in the eye. Not a thing. I could have cried with relief. Henry told me a long time ago. Tom continued that if anything ever happened to him, I was to wait for word from the legal owner. Not his son, not the estate, the owner. And you knew that was me. He nodded. Henry made it very clear. He said, and I quote, "Tom, if I'm gone, Evelyn's the one in charge, no matter what anyone else tells you." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Thank you," I whispered, "for honoring that." Tom reached into his satchel and pulled out a small notebook, weathered and thick with handwritten entries. I've kept records of every project, every payment, every time Derek came sniffing around asking questions. He laid it flat on the table and flipped to a bookmarked page. Your son's been borrowing from the business for years, always under the pretense of some new venture, some emergency, some crisis. Henry documented it all through Jensen, but I kept my own notes too. I skimmed the pages Derek's visits lined up with the bank transactions I'd seen, amounts growing bigger, then smaller, then bigger again. Tom had written dates, reasons even Derek's exact words when he asked for the money. Last year, Tom said, tapping a line on the page, he showed up the day after we got a large payment from the Morrison project. Claimed it was just a coincidence, but he asked about the deposit before I even mentioned it. He was monitoring the company, I said quietly. Tom nodded. That's my belief. Always came around after big jobs wrapped, asking if there were temporary funds available. And Henry? I asked. He always said no at first. Then a few days later he'd write a check. Never from the personal account, always through the business, but always documented. He knew better than to give money without paperwork, even to his own son. Tears prickled at the corners of my eyes. My husband hadn't just been generous, he'd been careful, deliberate. Even when he gave, he did it with a paper trail with boundaries. How much has Derek taken? Tom flipped to the final page and tapped it. According to my count, $93,000, give or take. I swallowed hard. He never paid it back. I said, more a statement than a question. Tom shook his head. Henry let it slide, said he'd deal with it later. But I think he knew he wouldn't get it back. I think he was protecting you the whole time. I looked at the man across from me, the one who had worked beside my husband for over 2 decades. Who knew the weight Henry carried even when I didn't? You could have just handed everything over when Derek asked, I said. But you didn't. Tom's voice dropped low and certain. Because Henry trusted me to guard what mattered, and I trust you to decide what comes next. Silence filled the kitchen for a moment, and then I said what had been on my heart since I left Jensen's office. I'm going to keep the business. I'm not selling, not handing it over, not giving Derek 1 more inch. Tom's lips curved into the smallest smile. Good. The company's in good shape. I'll keep running the operations like I have, but now I report to you. I nodded. And Derek, I'll follow your lead, Tom said. If he shows up again, I'll ask for authorization. The legal kind, which he won't have, I said. Tom stood gathering his notebook. If there's anything you need legal help inside on contracts, client updates, just say the word. I walked him to the door. Before he stepped out, he turned back. Henry built a good business, but what he really built was a shield around you. Quiet, strong. He wanted you to have the tools to stand on your own. I'm learning, I said softly, 1 step at a time. After he left, I sat back at the kitchen table. Vanessa's voice echoed in my mind again. This was never your home anyway, but now I knew better. Henry didn't just leave me a house. He left me a legacy, and people like Tom who would help me protect it. The truth was no longer hidden, and I was no longer afraid to hold it. The sun had barely reached the kitchen window when I heard the sound of a car door slam in the driveway. I knew that sound. Derek's Honda Pilot. I'd heard it 1,000 times over the years, but this morning it didn't bring the warmth of family or the comfort of a visit. It brought something else: tension, anticipation, a reckoning. I didn't get up to greet him. I stayed seated at the kitchen table sipping my coffee, my spine straight as steel. I'd been expecting this. Not long after, another vehicle pulled in behind him. Tom's work truck. Good. The timing couldn't have been better. Derek didn't knock. Of course he didn't. He walked in like he always had, like it was still his father's house, like he was still the little boy who could run through the back door yelling for dinner. But this time, I didn't get up from the table. I didn't offer him a plate, a seat, or a smile. "Morning, Mom," he said, glancing briefly at me before noticing Tom standing by the door. I wasn't expecting company. "Tom stopped by to check on me," I said evenly. He's always been thoughtful that way. Derek barely acknowledged him. His eyes were already moving through the kitchen, lingering on the counters, the cabinets, the windows, his mind measuring and mentally remodeling again, no doubt. "Actually," he said, turning to Tom, "this works out. I wanted to talk to you about the business." Tom crossed his arms slowly, his face calm but unreadable. "All right. What do you need with Dad gone? There are some decisions to make," Derek said. "It's time to assess our options. We need to look at contracts, financial statements, equipment, figure out if continuing operations make sense or if it's time to liquidate." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing yet. I wanted to see how far he'd go. Tom tilted his head. "And who exactly is we, the family?" Derek answered, waving his hand vaguely. "I'm handling Dad's affairs. It makes the most sense for me to step in." Tom was quiet for a beat. Then he said carefully, "So, who do I coordinate with to authorize any access to financial documents or business accounts?" "With me, obviously," Derek said, his tone tightening. Tom didn't blink. "And you have the legal authority to act on behalf of Ellis Construction." "Of course I do," Derek snapped. "I'm his son." Tom remained still. "That's not what I asked." And that was when the silence fell, dense and electric. Derek's mouth opened slightly, as if scrambling for words that weren't there. I took a long, deliberate sip of my coffee, and then spoke calmly, but with unmistakable weight. "This is still my kitchen, Derek, and Tom is my guest." He turned to me, brow furrowed. "Mom, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said, setting the mug down gently. "You walked into this house like you still believe it belongs to you. You talked to Tom like the business was yours to run. Neither is true." His jaw clenched. "I'm trying to make sure everything is handled responsibly." "Then start with respecting the truth," I said, standing now. "Your father didn't leave things to chance. He knew what was coming. He was careful. And so am I." Tom stepped slightly closer to my side. "I've seen the paperwork," he said. "Mrs. Ellis is the legal beneficiary of the trust. She owns the business." Derek's voice lost its confidence. "Dad wouldn't—" "He wouldn't just cut me out. He didn't cut you out," I said, my voice growing firmer. "He gave you more chances than you ever deserved. $93,000 worth of chances. Documented, loaned, never repaid. He kept records. Jensen has them. So does the bank." Derek paled. "And you," I continued, "you tried to take what wasn't yours. You showed up at the site pretending to be in charge. You tried to access accounts that don't belong to you. You came into my home after burying your father and told me to leave." I stepped forward, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "But I'm not leaving. Not this time. Not ever again without knowing exactly what I'm giving up." He stared at me, blinking. "Mom, I didn't mean it that way. You meant every word I said, and now you can mean this. I will not be erased. Not from this home, not from this business, and not from the life I built with your father." Tom shifted, clearing his throat. "So, Derek, unless you have official documentation from a court or the trust authorizing you to act on behalf of Ellis Construction, I can't share any business records with you." Derek looked between us, realizing he was outnumbered in a place he once controlled. "You can't be serious," he muttered. "I've never been more serious," I said. There was a long pause. Then he did something I hadn't seen in years. He backed down. He nodded stiffly. "Fine, I'll speak with my lawyer." "Do that," I replied. He turned and walked out of the kitchen out the back door without another word. The silence he left behind felt different now, lighter, like stale air had finally been let out. Tom looked over at me, his lips twitching into a smile. That was something. I laughed softly but genuinely. "I think I just grew a spine in front of my own son." He nodded. Henry would have been proud. I looked around the kitchen, my kitchen, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was standing in it as myself. Not just someone's wife, not just someone's mother, but Evelyn Ellis, the woman who stayed, the woman who remembered, the woman who finally stood up and said, "No." I had spent so much of my life making room for everyone else, making do, making peace. But today I made a decision. This house, it stays mine. This business, it thrives under my watch. And this voice I just found, I'm going to use it. 3 days after the standoff in my kitchen, the phone rang at exactly 7:00 a.m. It was Derek. "We need to talk." Now he said, his voice clipped, barely hiding the anger bubbling underneath. "Vanessa and I are coming over." I could hear the tires screeching in his tone, his control slipping. I paused for a long beat before responding. "It's rather early, don't you think? This can't wait." He hung up before I could say another word. I took my time getting ready. I chose a navy dress, Henry's favorite, the one he always said made me look like I ran the place. I added a string of pearls he'd given me on our 20th anniversary, and when I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't just see a widow. I saw a woman reclaiming her space. At 7:22, the doorbell rang. I opened it before they could knock. Vanessa stormed in like a heat wave, stiff with hostility, purse clutched like a shield. Derek followed, face grim jaw, set eyes scanning the room like it might explode. They remained standing deliberately, positioning themselves between me and the door, like they were staging an intervention. "Let's not drag this out, Vanessa," began her voice sharp. "What exactly are you trying to pull?" I didn't flinch. I walked slowly to the living room and sat down in Henry's old armchair, the one with the soft worn leather and a perfect view of the room. I'd placed a manila folder on the coffee table beside me. It was thick, intentional. "I told Tom to follow proper procedures," I said evenly, folding my hands in my lap. "Your father would have expected that." Derek's eyes narrowed. "Mom, we've been patient, but this is getting ridiculous. I'm the executor of the estate. I'm handling Dad's assets. You're handling his personal estate," I corrected, "but not the business." "What are you talking about?" Vanessa snapped. I opened the folder and laid the documents one by one across the coffee table, each page crisp, precise, and undeniable. Henderson Construction, now formally the Ellis Construction Trust, was restructured 5 years ago. It does not belong to the estate. It does not belong to you. It belongs to me. Derek blinked, visibly thrown. Vanessa grabbed one of the documents and scanned it furiously. "That can't be right," she said, voice rising. "You don't know anything about business. You can't even log into online banking without help." "True," I said calmly. "But your father did, and apparently he knew quite a bit about how people behave when they think they're entitled to what isn't theirs." Derek slowly sank onto the couch like his knees were giving out. He looked at the trust documents like they were in another language, but the business was struggling, he muttered. He told me it was barely hanging on. "No," I said, sliding another sheet toward him. "These are the quarterly profit statements for the past 5 years. It's been doing quite well thanks to Tom's steady hand and your father's planning." Vanessa's face turned white. "Then where's the money? If this was doing so well, why didn't we see any of it? You saw plenty of it," I said, reaching for the final tab in the folder. "Here are the loan agreements your father drafted. $87,000 to Derek. Over 5 years, all documented, all unpaid. She snatched the papers. Loans. You told me they were gifts. You said your dad was helping us out. Derek opened his mouth, but no words came. He was helping, I said. But he was doing it while protecting me. Every time he gave you money, he put away more in my name. He never mentioned it, not because he didn't trust me, but because he didn't trust what might happen after he was gone. Vanessa turned her fury toward me. None of this changes the fact that the house goes to Derek. This is his home. Is it? I asked softly. Then perhaps you'd like to explain the mortgage. Both of them froze. Derek turned his head slowly. What mortgage? This house, I said, reaching for the final page, was paid off until 18 months ago. Your father took out a home equity loan for $350,000. Vanessa snatched the page. That's not possible. We would have known you wouldn't, I said. Henry was the sole deed holder. I had survivorship rights, but not ownership. He didn't need my signature. He didn't need yours. The loan was deposited into the Ellis Construction Trust. Derek stared at the paper like it had betrayed him. You're saying Dad mortgaged the house to protect the business? I'm saying, I said, leaning forward, that your father knew exactly what he was doing. He mortgaged the house to ensure the business and my future would be untouchable. He protected me from this moment, from you. Vanessa's composure cracked entirely. Her voice turned frantic. You manipulated him. You must have made him do this when he was sick. He wasn't sick, I said sharply. He was smart and disappointed, and he planned accordingly. Derek looked pale, his confidence shattered. Mom, surely we can work something out. I mean, you don't really want to run a business? You don't really want to live here by yourself? I want what's mine, I said, and I want to live in a world where I am not discarded the moment I become inconvenient. But this house, it's worth over $400,000, Vanessa said, desperate. You don't need all of that. You're right, I said, which is why I have a mortgage now and monthly payments. But don't worry. Tom tells me the business is healthy enough to handle it. And then some. I stood straightening my dress. My voice was steady now, no longer shaking. You wanted me out, but I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. Vanessa stormed toward the door. This isn't over, Evelyn. We'll fight this. We'll contest every document. You're welcome to try, I replied, but everything your father did was legal. Margaret Morrison at the firm has copies. So does my lawyer, and I've got time, and clarity, and truth. Derek lingered by the door, eyes lost, unsure if he was angry or ashamed. I don't understand, he whispered. Why are you doing this to us? I stepped closer and looked him in the eyes for the first time in years. I'm not doing anything to you, Derek. I'm just refusing to let you do it to me. And with that, I closed the door behind them. For the first time in my life, it didn't feel like I was being cruel. It felt like I was finally being clear. It took less than 2 weeks for the court papers to arrive. Vanessa filed them, of course, her name bold at the top of the first page, like she was trying to rewrite reality by sheer force of font size. Derek followed her lead as always. The motion was aggressive, a formal contestation of the trust, a claim of undue influence, and even laughably, an accusation of financial elder abuse. I didn't panic. I called James Patterson, my attorney, the same afternoon. James was a quiet man in his late 40s with precise diction and an uncanny ability to stay composed even when people were flinging accusations like confetti. I liked him instantly the first time we met. He treated me not like a confused widow, but like a woman who had finally walked into her own power. They won't win, he said, after scanning the first 5 pages of the petition. But they'll try, I replied. James nodded. Oh, yes, they'll try very hard, because the one thing more dangerous than a greedy person is a desperate one. What followed was 6 months of filings, meetings, hearings, and declarations. Vanessa showed up to every court date in tailored blazers and fake tears, casting herself as the misunderstood daughter-in-law. Derek, meanwhile, oscillated between sulking and raging, always the victim in his own mind, never the perpetrator. They claimed Henry was coerced. They claimed I'd taken advantage of his declining health, though Henry hadn't had a sick day in 5 years. They claimed the trust documents were suspicious, that he never would have cut his own son out unless someone had manipulated him. They brought in a pricey attorney who specialized in elder law, someone Vanessa had found online, with glowing reviews and a $600 an hour retainer fee. But truth has a way of cutting through fiction, and Henry, God bless him, had documented everything. Every loan to Derek, every payment, every delayed repayment, every trust transfer, every mortgage signature, every business transaction signed, dated, witnessed, and notarized. When James presented it all to the judge, even their attorney looked deflated. In the final hearing, the courtroom was so quiet you could hear the echo of paper being turned. James stood and spoke with steady clarity. Your Honor, this is not a case of abuse. It is a case of boundaries. A husband protected his wife with foresight and precision, anticipating that grief might not be the only storm she'd face. He left behind a legal structure that was not just thoughtful, it was ironclad. This trust is valid. These debts are real. And the only injustice present is the attempt to dismantle what was carefully built simply because the plaintiffs didn't get what they wanted. The judge ruled within 10 minutes. The trust stood. Every document held. Every signature was valid. But the cherry on top? The debt. As of that day, the court declared Derek's outstanding balance to the Ellis Construction Trust to be $96,342, including accrued interest and penalties. James requested a structured payment plan, 8 years monthly installments with wage garnishment permitted upon default. The judge agreed. Vanessa turned pale. Derek stared at the floor, visibly crumbling under the weight of consequences he'd never believed would arrive. They left the courtroom in silence. I walked out into the sunlight with James beside me. He looked at me and smiled. You handled yourself with grace, Mrs. Ellis. I handled myself with truth, I said. Everything else took care of itself. That evening, I sat on the porch with a fresh cup of coffee, the golden light pouring over the railing, casting soft shadows across the yard. Tom had dropped by earlier to update me on a new commercial contract for the business. Mr. Jensen had emailed the latest financial statement. It looked good, solid, just like Henry would have wanted. I watched the breeze rustle through the trees, and for the first time in months, I let my body relax fully into the chair. I didn't owe anyone anything, and no one had the power to take anything from me. The silence wasn't ominous anymore. It was peace. I could drink my coffee without wondering what Vanessa might be scheming. I could check the mail without flinching at the sight of envelopes. I could sit in my own home without waiting for someone to tell me I didn't belong in it. And that was freedom. People think power is loud, but they're wrong. Power is calm. Power is knowing. Power is sitting in a house someone tried to rip from under you and realizing they failed. Vanessa had stopped texting weeks ago. The last message she sent was short and venomous. I hope you're happy destroying your family over a pile of paperwork. I never responded, because what she didn't understand was this wasn't about paper. This was about presence, Henry's presence, my presence, and the boundaries we both refused to let others erase. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, I thought about all the versions of myself I'd been over the years. The quiet one, the peacekeeper, the caregiver, the background. And now I was the woman who stared down betrayal and won with dignity and tact. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need forgiveness. I had peace, and I had the power to choose what came next on my own terms. Tomorrow I might take a walk along the bluff or visit the flower market in town. Maybe I'd buy myself something beautiful, not to impress anyone, but simply because I could. Because when the debt came due, it wasn't just Derek who was called to account. It was me too. And I'd finally stepped up and claimed the life that was always mine to live. 6 months after the courtroom dust had settled, I stood barefoot on the back deck of a seaside cottage and breathed in the briny, gentle breeze of the Pacific. The waves lapped rhythmically against the rocks below, steady, patient, eternal. Seagulls wheeled above in quiet ceremony, and somewhere far off, a fishing boat hummed toward open waters. This was the kind of morning Henry always dreamed of waking up to, and now so did I. The cottage sat on a bluff in Mendocino, nestled behind a thicket of cypress trees. Smaller than the house I had raised Derek in, but perfect in its own way. White clapboard siding, wide windows facing the sea, a small garden filled with rosemary and wild sage. Every part of it whispered simplicity, solitude, peace. It wasn't in the will. It wasn't in any of the trust paperwork. It came to me through a surprise phone call from Margaret Morrison, the estate accountant, 3 months after the court ruling. Mrs. Ellis, she'd said gently, while finalizing the business files, I came across an additional deed. A property purchased through the trust about 3 years ago. It's in your name, full ownership. I remember my breath catching. It's a cottage on the coast, she continued. And there's something else. A note, written by Henry. I thought you might want to see it. She sent it via overnight mail. When I opened the envelope tucked behind the clean folded deed was a single sheet of Henry's familiar handwriting for Evelyn's piece when she's ready. No schedules, no expectations, just the sound of her own breath and the ocean's voice. Love H. I read it twice, then again, and then I wept, not out of sadness, not even from the ache of missing him, but from the overwhelming realization that this man, my husband, had loved me so thoroughly, so privately, that even in death, he'd continued guiding me toward healing. 2 weeks later, I moved in. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't post about it or tell anyone except Tom and Mr. Jensen. The house on Chestnut Street was officially rented out to a young family with 2 kids and a Labrador retriever who reminded me of the one Derek had as a boy. And I left the rest behind not to escape, but to step forward. Tom called every Friday with updates on Ellis Construction. He was thriving. The company was thriving. Contracts were steady. The team was tight, and the quarterly profits continued to be deposited directly into the trust. You don't have to worry about a thing he'd said last week. Henry built something solid. I'm just keeping the wheels turning. I believed him. My days now began slowly. A cup of French press coffee on the deck, a walk through the local market, an afternoon curled with a book by the fire, or digging in the garden out back, planting herbs and sweet peas. I never imagined I'd enjoy this kind of solitude, but it turns out when no one is asking you to be smaller, quieter, or convenient, you start to expand. And then just as I had begun to truly settle into my new rhythm, a letter arrived. The handwriting on the envelope stopped me in my tracks. Derek. It wasn't typed. It wasn't scribbled. It was neat, intentional, like he'd tried. I opened it slowly, heart steady but cautious. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. Mom, I know you probably won't forgive me right away, maybe not ever, but I need you to know I finally understand what Dad was doing. It took losing everything to see how much I'd taken for granted. Romy and I are in counseling. I'm working 2 jobs to keep up with the payment plan, and for the first time in a long time, I'm not blaming anyone but myself. I hope someday we can talk, not about money, just as mother and son. I'm sorry for all of it. Derek. I sat with the letter for a long time. I didn't cry, not out of coldness, but because it wasn't a letter that needed tears. It was the letter of a man just beginning to realize the depth of the damage he'd done, and it came 6 months too late. Still, it was something. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and tucked it in a drawer not out of sight, but not at the center of my life either. If Derek wanted forgiveness, he would earn it, like his debt, steadily, monthly, through consistency, not apology. The truth is, I didn't need him to say he was sorry to heal. I had already begun healing the moment I stood up in my own kitchen and told him no. Now my life was no longer something I was clinging to out of fear. It was something I was choosing every day. That evening, I lit a candle on the windowsill, poured a glass of wine, and sat on the deck while the sun slipped behind the waves. There was no celebration, No dramatic music, just me, breathing, watching the sky melt into pink and gold. And in that stillness, I felt Henry with me, not in the tragic, ghostly way people talk about the dead, but in the strength he left behind, in the fact that I now knew the exact value of my worth, not in dollars, but in dignity. I had come through fire, and now I was home. Not the house they tried to take, not the business they tried to steal, but the quiet place inside me that knew I belong, and I am enough. A month after I'd fully settled into the cottage, the rosemary in bloom, the sea becoming as familiar as my own breath, I received a handwritten letter. This one wasn't from Derek. It was from a woman named Clara. She introduced herself as a counselor and advocate who worked with older women who'd experienced what she called financial erasure. A fancy term maybe, but I understood it to my bones. She'd heard about my case. The court decision had been quietly circulated among legal support groups. And somehow my name had reached a room full of women who felt small in their own homes, invisible in their own families. Clara's letter ended with a simple invitation. Would you come speak to us just once, not to relive your pain, but to show others that dignity is not a gift, it's a right. I thought about it for days. I paced, I watered the sage, I made excuses in my head. I'm not a public speaker. What if I cry? What if no one listens? But something kept tugging at me. Not guilt, not obligation, something else. A voice in me that had grown stronger each month clearer. A voice I'd spent most of my life softening, apologizing for silencing to make others comfortable. That voice whispered, "Do it." So I did. The gathering was small, just a sunlit room in the back of a community center with folding chairs and a pot of lukewarm coffee. But the women who sat in those chairs, they carried stories. You could see it in their eyes, years of silence, of shrinking, of giving and being told it was nothing. I didn't prepare a speech, I just told the truth. About the night Vanessa told me to leave, about Derek's quiet betrayal, about Henry's hidden protection, and about the moment I stopped asking for permission to exist. I ended with this: love should never make you invisible. Protection is a gift, not a cage. You are allowed to know things, to own things, to choose peace over performance, and most of all, you are allowed to take up space. Some nodded, some cried, and for the first time in my life, I felt my voice not as something shaky and small, but as something steady, something useful. I walked out of that center and stood on the sidewalk in the late afternoon sun. The ocean wasn't nearby, but I still felt it. That deep rhythm of life that asked nothing of you except honesty. Later that evening, I sat again on my cottage deck, wrapped in a shawl, warm mug in hand, and I smiled, because no one could take this from me. Not the house, not the business, not my peace, not me. Henry had given me the key, but I had walked through the door, and that, I think, is what freedom really means. Not having to beg for your place at the table, but realizing you can build your own. What Evelyn's story reveals beneath all the legal documents and quiet acts of defiance is something painfully familiar in today's world: the way society quietly devalues older women. Not always with loud cruelty, but with silence, with subtle dismissal, with questions like, "Are you still living in that big house all by yourself?" Or, "Don't you think it's time to downsize?" But a life built over decades should not be erased with a suggestion. Evelyn's journey isn't just about reclaiming a house or exposing financial lies. It's about reclaiming voice, dignity, identity. In a world that too often sees widows, retirees, or aging mothers as burdens, she became a quiet revolution. Her strength wasn't in shouting, it was in refusing to disappear. This is a wake-up call to the daughters and sons who forget the sacrifices made for them, to the systems that assume power always belongs to the young, to women who were told their role ends with their husband's breath. It doesn't. In fact, that may be where their story truly begins. If you've ever felt like Evelyn, like your presence in your own life was shrinking, then let this be your sign you are not done. You are allowed to know, to own, to protect, and to rebuild. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed or experienced this kind of quiet erasure? What does freedom mean to you at this stage of life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters, and your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.